Revenge films.
My name is Jessica, and I live together with my husband, Michael. We don't have any children. We both work full-time, and even though we aren't able to live an extremely luxurious life, we were able to live a pretty normal life. Although my marriage was stable, my mother-in-law really seemed to hate the fact that I wasn't giving birth to her grandchild. Every single time that she would see me, she would yell at me and say, "You still aren't able to give birth to not even one child yet? You are such a useless wife, a worthless daughter-in-law." And she would constantly belittle me like this. However, I wanted to say back to her that she wasn't the only one that was being troubled by the fact that I wasn't able to give birth to a child. I asked my husband if we could both go to the fertility clinic and be tested for infertility, but Michael refused. He said that there's no way he would ever do something that embarrassing and never agreed to come with me. Without proper testing, there was no way to know for certain who was the reason for our inability to have a child, but my mother-in-law only blamed me, and her words were hard for me to bear. Not only that, but my husband didn't show any signs of even trying to protect me from his mother's harsh words. Whenever I would try to ask him to help me, he would seem annoyed and told me to just let his mother be. He never even tried to think about my feelings. Days like this continued, and I was feeling down about not being able to have children, and also about my husband's reaction. I was starting to question my relationship with my husband, when one day, I felt like my husband had become even more cold to me than before. As soon as the weekend would come around, he would disappear from the house, and even when I asked if we could go see my parents from time to time, he will tell me that I should just go and see them alone and wouldn't come with me. And yet despite that, whenever his mother would call, I would have to go to her place and she would make me help with her chores. But my husband would say that it was my responsibility as the daughter-in-law and said it was a given. Then one day, out of nowhere, my husband suggested a family trip. Because I was being used by my mother-in-law daily, I thought that maybe this was him showing his appreciation, and I was happy. However, whenever I asked my husband where we were going, he told me he didn't care where it was, but just to make a random reservation at any hotel. I was starting to wonder if he really had any intention of going on this vacation with me, but he was the one that suggested the vacation in the first place, so I decided that I should be able to enjoy it to the fullest, and I made a reservation for a hotel. And then a couple of days later, to my shock, he told me that his mother was also going to be coming on the trip. I thought that I was going to be able to finally enjoy some time alone with my husband, but when I found out that his mother would also be coming along, I was devastated. Until the day of our trip, I continued to tell my husband that I wanted to go on the trip alone with him, but he refused to listen to my opinion at all. And without discussing it with me at all, he decided that we would be going on the trip with his mother. And then on the day of the vacation, I didn't want to give up on going on the vacation just because of my mother-in-law, so I packed my belongings and we departed. But then for some reason, I started to realize that my husband was driving the car deep into the mountains. I started to become uneasy and felt like we were going down the wrong road, so I asked my husband if he was getting lost. But then, sitting in the front seat, my mother-in-law and my husband grinned at each other.
"Nope, not lost. This is definitely the right road,"
he said to me. I started to have a bad feeling, but there was no way that I could just get out of the car this deep in the mountains. And I also couldn't possibly imagine that we would be doing anything in those roads in the mountains. So I sat in the car as he drove. But then all of a sudden, my husband stopped the car, and he said that the car may have broken down, so he got out of the car and went around to the back. I started to panic that the car broke down this deep in the mountains, but then my mother-in-law turned around and yelled at me. "Are you trying to make my son deal with this on his own? You need to hurry up and get out and take a look." So I felt like I had no choice but to do as she asked. As soon as I came around to the back of the car, my husband ran right back into the car and he locked the doors. "Hey, what are you doing? Hey, open up! Open the door!" When I said that, my husband and my mother-in-law were laughing inside and said,
"Yeah, right. Around the time our vacation is over, we'll come back to pick you up. So why don't you just hang out around here and eat the weeds in the mountains?"
"Do be careful that you don't end up meeting a bear or anything that might eat you." As they said that, to my disbelief, they left me there alone, deep in the mountains, and the car with my husband and my mother-in-law disappeared down the road. I was stunned, but the anger towards my husband and his mother started boiling inside of me, and I vowed to myself that I would get revenge on them. And then, a few hours later, when my husband and his mother arrived at the hotel and walked in, they saw me standing there and they both turned completely pale.
What are you doing here? How are you here? I thought we threw you out in the middle of the mountains.
Wait a minute. Could it be that she's a ghost? Don't tell me that she died back there.
No, I'm not a ghost. I asked to be picked up in the helicopter.
Helicopter?
That's right. After I was thrown out by my husband and his mother, unluckily for me, my wallet was still in my purse in the car, but I did have my cell phone in my pocket. So I walked around to look for a place where I could catch service, and as soon as I was connected, I made a phone call to a certain person. My husband was confused as to why I had a helicopter and how I was picked up, but I wasn't the one that owned a helicopter. It was my biological father. When I was in elementary school, my mother was troubled by the difference in status with my father, and she chose a divorce. Many years after that, she got married to my current stepfather. From there, I lived a normal and peaceful life with my mother and stepfather, but I had stayed in touch with my biological father, and my mother-in-law accepted this and encouraged it. And this time, for the upcoming trip, I also wanted to see my biological father, so I thought about staying at the hotel that my biological father owned. When I contacted him, he gladly accepted, and he even reserved a really good room for me. That is, of course, because none of us could have imagined that this was going to happen. After my husband disappeared, I contacted my biological father, and I told him that I was left behind in the mountains, and I wanted him to come help me. If I walked about 1 kilometer from where I was standing, there was a huge open plot of land. He said that he would send a helicopter straight there, and that's why I was able to arrive before my husband and mother-in-law. My husband was shocked, unable to wrap his head around what was going on. But then I asked him who this woman was that was standing next to him like she belonged there. That was when my husband gasped and he looked towards me. I could already imagine that my husband had a new lover, and because I was no longer needed, he and his mother decided to just throw me away in the middle of the mountains and go home with that woman. And my mother-in-law was looking forward to enjoying the vacation with my husband's lover, who was a potential new daughter-in-law. And if all were to go well, she probably thought that she would finally be able to have her grandchild. But that wasn't how this was going to play out. My father had already called the police, and because they left me behind in the middle of the mountains, my husband and mother-in-law were arrested on the spot. The mistress started to say that she had nothing to do with this and had no clue, but there was no way that she didn't know about this plan in the first place, and so she was also taken away by the police for questioning. I also went to the police station after that in order to explain the situation and give my side of the story. But when I arrived, my husband now knew that I was actually the daughter of a super wealthy man, and together with his mother, they came over to apologize to me and beg me to forgive them. And not only that, but with a 180 degrees difference in attitude.
Jessica, why didn't you tell me sooner? None of this would have happened if I knew that you were the daughter of such a rich man. There's no way I would have had an affair with a woman like that to begin with. Look, my feelings just got a little bit lost today, that's all it was. From now on, I'm gonna make you the happiest woman in the world! You can count on it!
He started saying these things that would make me think my teeth were going to fall out, but then my mother-in-law continued.
My goodness, I had no idea that you were the daughter of such a beautiful hotel. I think that from now on, we're going to be able to have a beautiful mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship, don't you think? And even if you can't have children, it's fine. You can just adopt, isn't that right? I can't wait to make a lot of memories together with you. Oh, we're going to get along so well.
I couldn't understand what she was saying to me. I don't know if they were actually thinking that I would forgive them after they left me to die in the mountains, and at this point, I was over it. But of course, there was no way that my father was going to forgive them for this. When I said that I wanted to divorce my husband, he prepared a lawyer for me that was known as a divorce specialist, and he helped me corner my husband and mother-in-law without any mercy. And I was quickly able to get a divorce. And no matter how I thought about it, it was clear that divorce was the only way to go. Of course, that wasn't all. I used the lawyer that my father had prepared for me, and I collected a massive settlement fee from my husband and his mother. And that was an amount that they probably wouldn't be able to pay back for the rest of their lives. And I didn't forget, I also made sure to collect a settlement fee from the mistress as well. Apparently, she had heard from my husband and his mother that if I were to unluckily die in the middle of the forest, they would be able to receive a large fee for life insurance and live comfortably after that. They apparently even had a plan to say that the reason why I was in the mountains in the first place was because I got out of the car because of a fight between me and my husband, and then I got lost in the mountains on my own. Thanks to all of this, not only was I able to secure a divorce from my ex-husband, after that my ex-husband and his mother were convicted, and they were going to be placed behind bars. The moment that their sentencing was decided, they turned to me and started throwing a tantrum, begging for me to save them. They were crying, but I felt like they had no right to say that after they were the ones that left me to die in the mountains. As for the mistress, she wasn't charged for any crimes, but because my father exposed everything that happened to her workplace and to her parents, they disowned her and she was fired from her job. And with that, she was left with nothing but a large settlement fee to pay. My husband tried to insist until the very end that it was all just a joke, but the moment he brought his mistress to the hotel, he had already buried himself into his grave. Given my mother-in-law's age, she's probably going to spend the rest of her life behind bars and die there. Even if she were to be able to get out, the only thing she would be left with would be her debt. When I was being belittled every single day by my mother-in-law that I wasn't able to give birth, there were times that I wanted a baby as fast as possible, but when I look back now, I think I was lucky that I wasn't able to have a child with Michael. Once we get divorced, he may become my ex-husband and nobody to me, but to our child, he would be their father for the rest of their life. And there was a chance that my child would have to have a criminal for a father. My father cheered me up, saying that there were plenty of wonderful men out there in the world, better than that piece of crap. And so I'm going to try and forget about those three and move forward with my life.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.